Pin, pin, pin. Man, there we go. Quick look, default settings, blah blah blah. All default. Alright, let's go. Wait, hear a dog right away. Hold on. Wow. Why is my computer laggy? For just Minecraft. Okay. Should be better now. Oh, you know what? Chrome has a bunch of tabs open. 1 second. I gotta clear all these. Or we are gonna have a funny problem when I blow up because of lag. Alright, that should be better. Hello! I hope no baby zombie comes to ruin your day. Hopefully not. Minecrafting these nuts? Yeah. You would say that? Okay, that's gonna take forever to get that. Hold on. Now it'll take slightly less time to get that last piece of wood. Hold on. Oh, there's still one on top. That's lame. Oh well. Oh shit, it's on fire. Whoa! Dude, it's burning down. There's a... Did you kill that? Do you want this? Nice. Oh, fuck. Ouch. I walked into the fire. There's a fox. You want this? They're running. A feather. Why do sheep like berries? No, they don't. Why was he walking towards me when I was hitting him? I wanna find... Oh! Sorry, my cat. Just smacking shit out of the fucking sky. I think there must be a bug or something in my room that I can't see. Because she is like flipping out over there. Okay, 3 wall. This forest is kind of dense. I'm gonna find somewhere cool to build though. Oh shit. Okay, I thought I just fell into a really deep hole. For a second while glancing over at my cat. Oh, it opens up a little bit over here. Yeah. I want to build somewhere that's like, you know, a little close to a cave entrance. Just something a little nice. Yep, this looks pretty decent, except for the fact that it's full of water. Damn. Evil wolf possessed by the ooh, the spirit of deforestation. Very true. Yeah, this doesn't look awful. Hold on. One, two, three. Let's instantly build a better pickaxe. So we can just build a quick house, like literally right here. I think it was lapis. Pretty sure it was lapis, at least. Like 90% sure. Do some quick deforestation of my own, following in the spirit of my wolf ancestor. I say with my bird wings. At least I won't have any problems with food. Okay, now I can move this inside here. Let's put this in the floor. Wanted to get some oak real quick specifically because I do not like having doors you can't see through. I forgot what I was building. Oh, another of these. Two of them. Okay, now I can have some torchies. Should make a sword. What up, sweater? The sweat man. Think in your game, because I did not hear an Enderman. Just stopping by. Big snoozer sweater. You would be. Have you considered you're just hearing the voices, Devin? gonna make a sword. I might be stupid. What was I gonna make with this cobblestone? Definitely nothing to defend myself. See, I don't know why I'm bothering to make a bed even. I guess I can sleep through the night. There's literally nothing in this cave I set by. That is damn tragic. There's nothing. There's nothing. Man. I made 4 furnaces because I was expecting mad loot in there. The hubris. Oh, never mind. Oh, what? Oh, what? Dude, what is up with all these fucking weird-ass caves that are full of water? Do horses drop leather? They do. Oh shit! I forgot horses could have babies, honestly, so I saw the baby horse and I was like, holy shit. I'm specifically trying not to hit the baby horse, by the way, but it keeps walking in the way. Tragic. Maybe you see, that would be how it would work in real life, but I think Minecraft's just trolling me. You're the worst genocide. You know, I could stream Uma Musume sometime. And then really have horse genocide. I actually haven't played Uma Musume in a hot minute. Ouch. You played again for the Christmas event? Genocide's what I just call it when I throw out all my fucking horse girls that have disappointed me. This poor baby horse I just left there. Tamamo Cross. See, the thing is I like most horse girls kind of on the same level. Where, you know, they're good. They're all good. Super Freak might be the only horse that I don't like that much. Sometimes I think about Super Freak and I'm like, she sure is a horse. I don't like that she's such a MILF, bro. She's a MILF and she's not even... I don't know. She's just weird, man. I do not want to be her goo goo baby. You found one, Demon. A super freak fan in the wild. Give me more leather. It'd be funny if, like, this year horses had, like, a, like, plus 1% spawn rate in Minecraft. Just the unending sound of horse death. Speaking of horse death, the audio is at a good level, right? It's not, like, too loud when the horses are dying. Horse speed update when? Dude, they're gonna make an update where you kill horses and glue comes out. What the hell? The fuck is that? Dude, looks like there's a room down there. Isn't that fucked up? I should get more torches before I really start looking at all these holes. Only the horses. That's fine. It means when a creeper inevitably fucking blows up immediately behind me and ends my hardcore world, I'll, blow out somebody's speaker, maybe. Mine V. Dude, that was like such a thin ravine though. It's like, I like that it does drop down into another hole. Let's dump these in here. Oh wait, I'm holding, that's correct. I'm holding this because I was going to make it into armor. There, we're a little stronger now. A little more protected. What's that big ravine? Dude, it's kind of crazy how much Ozempic popped off this year. Because, you know, obviously working in a store that has a pharmacy, I've heard of Ozempic before, but hearing it, all of a sudden people be like, oh my god, it's this miracle weight loss drug. It cures every illness. You must take it. It's, like, been so weird. I've had customers ask me if I recommend Ozempic, and I just have to be like, bruh, I'm not a pharmacist. I'm a cashier, bruh. I can't, like, give you advice on that shit. I craft whatever I have enough materials for first. Or if I'm doing a higher tier, whatever I don't have a slot for first. Unless it seems like it's more beneficial. I don't personally know that information, actually. But if I did, I would say it. I don't give a fuck. Wait, I can, We can shove some of these in here too. We are multiplying our trees into charcoal. 69%, 67%. Shut up, guys. Dude, I actually cried earlier when I was fucking bobbing my head. And someone said it looked like I was doing 6-7 with my fucking wings, bruh. So fucking sad. Actually fucking wounded me. Yeah, look at that. We got delicious amounts of charcoal. So we can be safe. Ow. Technically, like, the safest option would be to, make a mine shaft from, like, where I have my house set, but, like, that would be kind of tedious. I'd much rather try to refine the world's tiniest ravine. Was that on the other side of this hill? No, but there's something over here, isn't there? Ooh. Unless this was the world's tiniest ravine. No, but there's iron in here, guys. Yo. There's 1 iron in here. Whoa, we're gonna accomplish so much. What the hell is this? Oh shit. Oh shit. That goes really deep, really fast, actually. Maybe a little too fast for my little hardcore world to take. You're probably gonna sleep soon. I love iron. Wish fucking copper was useful, bruh. I have 9 copper and I can't do anything with this. There's coal. Yeah, I could make a greenhouse. Not with this little amount of iron, but, you know. Here we got 1 billion saplings. I don't know. I don't think in the update that I'm playing. Let me look real quick. You made it to HR2? Or just Hub Quest 2? Yeah, I think it's just that. Bobbert keeps DMing me every time I have a stream that he can't make it to. It's fine. You don't have to DM me. I love Rise. Honestly, maybe I will stream it. My next day off is Sunday, and I'm sure a lot of people will be able to tune in on that, so maybe that'll be a Rise streamy type day. Will you be any tasty snacks? Yes. 2 bone. That'll be excellent. I forget spoilers are safe during the day. I don't trust them. So let's see, when I found the tiny ravine, I was beep-bopping along this way. Is that it? Right there? I think it is. I think this is our tiny ravine. Yep. World's smallest ravine right here. I'm gonna carve out a staircase. Just to be safe. And this way I'll have an easy way back. Oh shit. Man, there's nothing in here. This is the world's tiniest ravine. Wow, there's copper. Honestly, I just love Rise's combat. It's probably, well, Jen is up there, but I think it did take, in the end, take its spot as my favorite Monster Hunter game. Like, I really used to like Jen. That's the Mizutsune game after all. But they, you know, added Mizutsune to other games because they love me personally. They are my biggest fan over there at Capcom. What a weird ass cave. Chickens. Have you guys seen the baby chickens that are coming in the next main Minecraft update? They previewed them and they are super adorable. They're just little guys. I saw someone compare them to Sinclair from Limbus Company. And I'm like, yeah, I see it. He is kind of like a little chicklet. Oh yeah? You grinded Mizutsune for its armor and weapons in Generations Ultimate? Wow. I definitely wouldn't force my friends to do anything like that or something similar. Oh, this is a weird cave. I don't like that it's grass. Why the heck is it grass all the way through? Why is it so much grass? This is a fucked up cave, guys. It's so funny that Colm has specific PTSD about the fucking Mizutsunes in fucking Generations because of me. That's like actually so funny to me. This is a fucked up cave. Actually, like genuinely. I need another pickaxe. Let me make like a little tower so I can see the entrance because this is another tiny entrance to a cave. In Rise, I'm also really good at hunting Mizutsune. This entrance to my house looks so different now that I killed all the trees. I'm gonna plant some in some nice orderly rows. This horse grew up. He's right for the taking. Yeah, Mizutsune basically didn't change. which is part of what makes it so good. The Mizu fight in Wilds is okay, but I genuinely, I don't like Wilds. It's not, I don't like it. It doesn't hit the same. There's just something about it that's off. I don't know how to explain it. Yeah. I think I'm gonna have to get a new keyboard at some point because my shift key is like you know how if you press shift too many times it tells you can turn on sticky keys, except for some reason my shift key is like actually sticky, which is weird because I don't like bring food up into this room. Can you bake apples? No. Let's plant some birch trees. See, well, even on my PC, Wilds wasn't too bad, which is weird because my PC kind of struggles sometimes. Honestly, the fact that it has as few problems as it does while streaming is really nice. And I never have had any problems running Wilds on PS5. Kind of made me laugh because the other day someone was like, I was just like, yeah, I haven't really played that much of Rise compared to, or Wilds compared to Rise rather. And they were like, oh yeah, because it runs like dog shit. And I'm like, no. No, that is not the reason. It actually plays fine for me. Like, see, I think the idea is really cool. And of course, I do think it's really neat. It's just, like, I feel like it's more neat conceptually than it actually is. I think a lot of things are cool, like the events and the costumes are cool. It's just the gameplay loop itself, or not even the gameplay loop. The gameplay loop is fine. It's the actual combat in Wilds doesn't feel right for any weapon for me. Like, of course, which weapon feels right differs from game to game for Monster Hunter usually. But even in Worlds, I was able to find a weapon I liked, or two weapons that I liked for the most part. But it just, it just doesn't feel right. None of the weapons felt right in Wilds, which is really disappointing. Is it late enough to go to sleep? Nope. I wish I could make iron armor. Ah. Oh, I was gonna make more cobblestone pickaxes. So let's expand this room conveniently. This is a nice part about making cave bases. Is if you need more materials, you just dig. Need a bigger base? Just dig. Oh yeah, no, don't worry about my opinion. That's just my opinion. There's a ton of people that like and really enjoy the game. I miss Dragalia. I wish Nintendo could find a way to like release single player Dragalia somehow. Or hell, they could even make, you know, Dragalia, but similar to like Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. Like if they wanted to make a Relink clone that was Dragalia, that would be fucking sick as hell. Yeah. Yeah, I think it would be super awesome if they made like a thing. Oh, by the way, I did update my model parameters so I can like lean really far back and get small. Or I can lean really, really far in and get big. Oh god, I even like clip. I can get so big. So I can like take up the whole fucking screens. Well, I could if I had like my VTuber window a little bigger. But I can like switch to side of my chair. And like kind of sway. I can get very big, yeah. Okay, 1 second. I think if I make my window bigger. Oh god, I closed it. I didn't mean to hit the exit button. Ah, VTube Studio! No, don't die! I killed myself. Hold on, we fix this. No, I deleted myself. I'm gonna have to reconnect again, so I'm gonna just be staring blankly at the screen for a second. We turn on the VTube Studio app. Why did you make yourself smaller? Legal. Ah! Okay. Whoops. That was a mistake. Yeah. Make ourselves a little bigger. Make ourselves a little wider. I said we make ourselves a little wider. Hello? It like doesn't want to grasp the edge of the window. I know you can do it. Oh, I saw it for a second there. There we go. And I can make myself a little smaller without actually becoming smaller. And take up like even more of the Minecraft window. Firmly grasp it. Like I was like gently caressing the corner of the or side of like the VTube Studio window to try and get it to behave. Whoa. Hello. And like firmly stare at you. Gigantic. I can you know, there's a lot of toggles I want to set for different stuff. I've only made a couple toggles. I made the one for when I'm thinking really hard, which is this one. I made the one for fishy, which is this one. I made the one for when I'm scared, which is this one. And then I made the one for when I'm playing Little Goody Two Shoes, which is this one. Those are my toggles so far. I can make like a crying emote one. And some other ones too, which I might at some point make. There we go. And I make myself normal size again. I, why? I wonder why your stream randomly muted itself. Weird. Doesn't like me. It was like, why are we listening to this bitch? But yeah, I was doing this with my head, and someone was like, oh my god, your wings are doing 6-7. I was like, no. Eepee. Mod, kill that man. Yeah, I know, right? Man, it was like a really sweet artist that joined. I did make myself a new pickaxe. I didn't make myself a new pickaxe. I mined the for a cobblestone and then got distracted playing around with my model. There was an artist that joined the stream earlier and they sent me their art reference unprompted, which, I mean, that's kind of how it be when you're an artist and you just want to get shit done. I just didn't like... I didn't like her fucking art style, unfortunately. And I like ran all of their art through a AI tester just in case, because that's always like the first thing, whether I'm gonna like commission someone or not nowadays. First thing I do is check and see if it's AI, because I'm not even gonna consider it if it is. Wait, where is my cobblestone tower over here? Yeah, a sloppy weird fucking child. I saw someone who was like doing AI fucking VTuber model commissions, and they're just so dog shit. They're like really bad. And then they still charge like a fucking $2,000, bro. Like it's a fucking fully professionally done model with rigging. Or they'll be like, yeah, I'll do your VTuber model, and then you get like a fucking flat PNG with no layers. I mean, I'm not even that picky. That's why I was chill with doing this customizable model. Like, there was a different customizable model I looked at a while ago, the Suica one. But, I don't know. Even with all the editing you can do to it, I didn't like the style of the model itself in particular. But this one I really, really, really like. Oh shit, I see you. They're coming. The enemy. Okay. Oh shit. You see what I see, guys? That's a cave. Oh wait, it's this is that same fucking cave. Oh, see, I'm a little nervous because I can hear the spider. I don't want to get jumped. See, I don't know why this cave is so grassy. This whole ass cave is grassy. Oh, there's a spider. I see you. Do you see me? Come here. Can you get to me? Can you fit your fat little spider body? I can just get some iron, I'll make a little, like, temporary base setup. Shit. Oh, goddamn, it's big in both directions! This cave is fucking massive! What the fuck? This cave is huge. I'm actually kind of worried going down in here because I'm gonna be ambushed from like 40 fucking directions. I'm mostly worried about that fucking skeleton there, actually. There's a creeper there. Dude, look how many creepers there are! Oh my god. It goes back in this direction too. I feel safer in here though, because it's like not so open, you know? God, I'm so squishy right now. Okay. So this is relatively safe. So I'm gonna mine and create some iron real quick and make some armor. Just like literally right here in the cave, we're gonna do it live. And a shield. Ooh, I don't like this. See, it's a really fucking awesome cave, and if I wasn't playing in hardcore, I'd be so stoked to explore this whole thing. But I am playing in hardcore, so it's like, well, I'm gonna fucking blow up. Do creepers have nectar? I don't think they do. They do have gunpowder. Yeah, that's true. And I think I'll be able to explore it eventually. It's just a matter of it getting to the point where I'm not going to get one shot. Once I have a shield here, I won't get one shot anymore at least. There, I got boots. Iron. And then we have a shield. I need to make more torches too. And then I can start making copper tools, swords. Oops. Maybe I'm gonna need more sticks. I actually don't have to work until... I wish I could make a Glock. But that's not this mod pack, unfortunately. In fact, this is just, this is straight up vanilla right here. can live over there. Along with... Oop, not that. That can stay in my inventory. These can go over there too. Yeah, vanilla with glowing ores. I think that's just the Optifine thing that I have. Was there more iron over this way? Yes. Just 2. It's like you're watching a real VTuber. That's crazy. Imagine if I was a real VTuber, guys. I did joke the other day with someone like, what if I applied to Niji Sanji? Just so I could fucking gather some clout and get fired. And boost my indie rep. Oh shit. God fucking damn it, that lightning sound scared the shit out of me. Dude, it's fucking storming up there. It's like actually really funny. Cause like literally all of my Oshis have fucking graduated from Niji Sanji. Obviously there's my main 2. And then Rosami's gone. I don't like that thunder sound. It is so loud. Yeah, Rosami graduated. It's really easy to find her though because Harada's still her biggest fan. Saddest thing though is that we lost the Rosami-sama theme song. Thunder is so loud. So loud. And it's storming like crazy up there on the surface. Just gonna get it lit up around this amethyst geode. See, if you move fast enough with a large enough render distance, this is a thing I learned actually watching a speedrunner. So your render distance affects how far monsters can spawn from you. So if you're moving around a lot and you have a really, really short render distance, it'll always be trying to spawn mobs in that render distance. So the more you move around and the larger your render distance is, the less you're actually going to see mobs. But if you want to see a lot of mobs, you just lower your render distance. See, I actually never really watched Petra. I like it trying to play one of the OG like Minecraft musics while there's this really fucking loud thunder and lightning. Copper? Yeah. Oh shit. Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! See, now I'm backtracking a little bit, so mobs are spawning. Where they can, of course. There, now I'm gonna have plenty of iron ore. Man, I do miss the Mista design sometimes. I still got like all of the Mista merch, like all of it. What? Amelia Watson? Could she be not British? I don't know about that one. Kind of sad that Ame-Same is dead, though. That was like kind of a goated ship. Even though in their current lives they stream together. It's just not the same. It doesn't like roll off the tongue the same way. Look at that shit down there, guys. This is a fucking huge cave. That flashing moving thing was a glow squid. Probably was dying. I see diamonds! Whoa, look at that! Diamonds, guys. Only 2,000 miles below me. Did it turn into an emote or something? I actually can't see that with my, whatchamacallit? My, chat window that I've got open in, OBS. Oh, you became red? I don't know, your color's been changing. Occasionally. Pants I still needed. Pants are dragon. Eventually I'll be streaming Minecraft with Sweater again. It'll be nice. I miss that Sweater guy. Him having a job and going to work. Until, like, next month. When he's out of work again. Alright, that's enough of that for now. I kind of want to make like a house on the floor of this cave. You know? But I should go upstairs and get some saplings if I'm gonna do that. So let's use this cobblestone to make a path. Wait. Okay, I had like 20 saplings. I think I planted them. Hello! That is a cat. Look at that cat. Chucked milk emote. I want to get a drinking emote when I get to affiliate. There's two artists I'm looking at for emote commissions. There's one that I found, and then there's one that Sweater recommended. I might go with the one that Sweater recommended. Because Sweater says they're Chilea. Look at all those cat emotes. Woo! I love emotes like that. They're so cute. Oh, thank you for the follow. I should, let's see. Grab this. I should cut down some of my trees. So I can have some trees when I build underground. I'm doing good. I'm playing Minecraft until I fall asleep, which is not going well because I am not sleepy at all anymore. I'm actually less sleepy than when I started. The stream will not end. Let these trees fall down. The last hardcore world died because I blew up, so we'll see how this one goes. Because I wasn't keeping aware of creepers in my neighborhood. Dirt. You know, I could probably make a shovel. One second. the wind is like howling outside. In like real life. Hold on, let me look at the weather real quick. What is the weather? I know it's really, really warm, so it might be super windy. It is like incredibly, like, record-breaking, unseasonably warm right now. Where I'm at. It's like bizarre. Okay, it's not like quite record breaking. The record for here today. Let's see. What is today? The 9th now, technically? Now you stopped showing me the record. Hold on. Really does not want to show me for some reason. Usually on this page it shows me. Weird. Maybe it's a bad time to check and it's just not loaded. Whoa. Thank you, Demon. We love spam bots in the chat. But yeah, it's... The wind gusts are really crazy right now. But yeah, it's, like 54 degrees, which is 12 degrees Celsius. Right now, at midnight. Well, almost 1 a.m. Isn't that crazy? That's so warm. That's like actual spring weather. Like, it gets colder on a spring night. And it's January 9th. It's really bizarre. Like, for comparison, the temperature on Sunday, in 2 days, the low is going to be 22 degrees / -6. So the weather's a little weird right now. Yeah, very unusual weather going on. Global warming. It's like 54 degrees Celsius in Wisconsin right now. In January. At night. Aw, man, Demon. You'll fix that dongle one of these days. Yeah, 54 Celsius, be dead. Celsius like 11 degrees, I think I said, right? Maybe. I got these bushes, so I should be good for food. Oh shit. Yeah, I don't think the thing I was gonna get you is in stock yet, still. I'll have to double check again tomorrow. Oh, good night. Maybe when you send me that stuff, I'll do it unboxing stream. I see you. On guard. I wonder if I should just build a house like right here. Out of stone or something. Just, you know, nice little simple house. Dude, find some of the rare Volo merch that definitely hopefully exists at anime conventions, even though nobody makes merch of my guy. Isn't that crazy that nobody makes merch of him? Nobody resells merch of Volo either. Oh wait, you got me gay Volo? Holy shit. I was just thinking about that card again the other day. Because someone was like asking, one of my coworkers was talking about Pokemon cards and that they collect them sometimes. And they were talking about how they sometimes collect supporter cards, and I was like, oh yeah, me too. Really specific supporter cards. And luckily they did not care enough about me to ask me what supporter cards I was talking about. Yeah, no, that's the only one, Devin, unfortunately. Eventually these bushes will be a also natural deterrent against mobs trying to approach me. Okay, he was in the cool outfit. You know what would be really cool is if they made supporter cards where they were wearing like the Masters EX outfits. Not that Volo has a different outfit in Masters EX right now, but you know. Sounds like my mom or dad are awake. Yeah, Halloween Iono would be awesome. I have to get more grass at some point, but there we go. We've got a pretty steady food supply. No bed, because I forgot. I'll build a bunch of forges and some chests. Copper grate. I wonder what you can use copper grate for. Anything? Eight furnaces. I can basically make the floor out of furnaces if I want. Let's do that. Arvin actually does. He actually got one. He actually got one recently. Oh, thank you. Feel free to fall asleep listening to me blabber on about Pokemon characters. Yeah, let's actually plant at least one tree here. And then we'll put some torches down so our plants grow nice and well. And no monsters spawn on top of our house. Like this skeleton. Oh, there's two of them. Ah! Hold on. I definitely had my shield up before then. Have to make some more torches. You have not missed much. I've built a house. Underground. I'm adapting. I'll survive, adapt, and overcome. I've got a tree planted down here. I've got some bushes planted for food. And now it's just a matter of becoming self-sufficient. Oh shit. Where? There you are. Always makes me a little worried when I'm on the edge. Oh. I wonder if you guys can hear the wind when it blows outside like that. It's so crazy. It's really blowing out there. Makes sense though, the temperature is such a strange thing right now. Got a bow. Put these away in here too while I'm at it. Well, I gotta make more torches, right? Don't want to put everything away. I've got some copper blocks so I can decorate with those later if I want. I can make a bucket and get some water and then make an easy way to get up and down. Surely there's an easy source of water in here, right guys? Oh shit. Ah! Wow. I wonder if he can actually reach up here. If there's any pathfinding that allows him to get up here. I don't think so. But you never know. God, that goes so far down. Some lapis there. Eventually I'll make a... Oh, you thought the berries were from the Pokemon mod? Look at that, I come back and there's like a billion more berries. See, this is like a really good food source. Ow. I think I took berries off of that one and they immediately respawned. Kind of crazy how loud the wind is. Like I can hear it so loud through my headphones. Oh god, shit, a witch. Too bad I don't have a fucking Glock. I think that mod was really, really funny. Huh? Yeah, I've got one tree sapling in here. I could probably put a few blocks next to it to help it grow a little higher. But, nah. Oops. Cat's gonna distract me and get me blowed up. Oh, there's some water here. I need to wait to get it back up though. Maybe I'll just head back to the surface and get some water and then make a way down with it. I wonder if you can turn the berries into anything that's like an upgrade to them in terms of food content, or if they are just are what they are. You can pause it. You just have to actually pause it. It doesn't pause while you're in the crafting menu or inventory screen. Here, we got some water. Oh shit. Gonna be real, I did not mean to kill that sheep like that. He just took 1 billion fall damage when he fell. Mm-hmm. I've seen that throw a lot of people off when they see shaders. I like this shader because it's like not anything too crazy. It's a little bit nicer with the lighting. Just a little bit. But I think Minecraft might have like built-in stuff now. Some people have some really crazy mods for their Minecraft. Okay, so we've got a bed for when we go back downstairs. Let me make a shovel so I can get some dirt to take down with me real quick. Yippee! Okay. It is so loud. It's like so loud. Finished up this little bit, and that should be enough dirt for me for now. Oh, sugarcane. I'm gonna need that later too, so I'm gonna grab some of that. And honestly, gonna make another bucket. So I can just make an infinite pool of water downstairs. Now we're really, really crafting with our brains. And I should kill you guys just for the easy free food. I should get some wheat so I can do some other farming too. Even just a couple seeds will be nice. I can go from there. Six seeds. That'll be a good way to start. You like the water, Devin? Hate when squids show their butts to me. That's their starfish hole. And I don't want to see it. You know, I forgot this water was here. I could have probably taken this water downstairs, too. That's fine. Oopsies. Ow, 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 ow! I didn't plant this here. That must have just been naturally spawning or something. That would have been a really funny way to die on a hardcore save. Oh, my tree grew. Okay, so I can keep filling this in. Because I think even the babies of these are kind of spiky, right? No, they're not, actually. This will be a nice little safety perimeter to discourage mobs from harassing me. And, you know, if I wanted this to have grass on it, it would actually be pretty easy. Now that I'm thinking about it. Considering that that whole cave is like messed up and has grass. Oh, you know what? They probably do only spawn in the spruce one. I'm in the spruce biome. Tundra? Yeah. I do really think it would be funny if Sweater had actually installed horror mods when we were playing Minecraft. Because I just completely, like, blindly installed that mod pack without actually looking at what was in it. So he could have put literally anything in there and I would have been like, why is Herobrine here? Is that something they added? Look at that. I feel so much more protected. So we can throw some beef in here. And then we'll have to make some water. Let's do that right here. I'm gonna surround this with... This will protect us. Mr. Winton Overwatch? What? Maybe I'll just leave that open on that side and have that be my way down. Seems nice. My 7 sugarcane. I'll dig this out, so... Yeah, I'm like very low on coal actually. But that's alright, because I'm in a cave, so I'm surely I'll just happen to stumble upon some coal. I actually know where some coal deposits are in this cave anyway. Oh, uh-oh. I heard it. One of those little bastards. A baby zombie. Ooh. Baby zombies are some fucked up little dudes. They're evil and cruel and mean. Steak. Oops. Oops. So I need to make a hoe. And I should make another pickaxe. Which I actually need more sticks. You know, I could stream Isaac sometime, but I don't think I'm gonna install that mod. I think everything just looks so much nicer when you add a lot more torches than you actually need to. Okay, so there's some coal here. Probably shouldn't dig straight up. Knowing me, I'd dig into lava, or not lava. Well, maybe lava. Not this high up, probably. But dig into some like gravel and end up suffocating to death, unable to get myself out. Yeah, isn't that such a hard to get mod for some reason? It's weird. That's actually really sad. That's like sounds some like some really really bad luck. Oh yeah, I was gonna put this bed down, wasn't I? Hold on. So I can still access the I can access the I can access the furnaces underneath. We're furnace maxing in this household. Okay, so I've got some trepidation about going down, but I think it is time. There's so much going on down there. I'm so safe up here. Look at that glow squid. Enderman. I feel like glow squids are a creature that are just born and doomed to die instantly. Like a volleyball, huh? That's pretty rough, actually. I actually can get pretty far down safely over there. Let me check it out over here, actually. Oh, hi. It'd be kind of fun to play Terraria sometime on stream too. Beach volleyball! Beach volleyball! I can't remember exactly how Dawn says it, which is a shame. I love that creature. Don Quixote, my goat. I should make, I mean, I can make a regular, thing that makes that sound play, probably. I have buttons you can press to make sounds play right now. There's one of them, the less dramatic one. Let me go listen to that. They'll play on stream. Beach volleyball. I love her. Don's such a creature. Should get some water and like let it cascade off of this. Wash the foreboding creatures at the bottom away. Where's my steak? Let's eat this first, actually. Water. That's what I was coming over for. My two brain cells fighting to remember out, like, one thing that I was trying to remember. Put it here. Will it spread pretty nicely? Yeah. Oh, it could have spread more nicely, actually. Hold on. Let's put some cobble down. Make like a... Yeah. Maybe it'll spread nicely like this. Yeah, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. Heard a skeleton. Two Endermen. It's kind of hard to see what's all down there. It's a little dark. Oh god! Oh no! Oh no, oh no. Oh! There's a lot happening. Uh-oh. Excuse me. Bears. We just run. Oh dear. Oh no. This might be it, chat. Okay, don't worry. In this corner, we are going to be relatively safe because there's only one skeleton, I think. Oh shit. Okay. Let's chill. Oh! There was one behind me. Okay. Okay, we lived. We lived and we can start spreading our torches around. And it'll become like instantly 4,000 times safer down here. Creeper, aw man. So we back in the mines, got our pickaxe swinging from side to side. It's kind of sad that nobody makes Minecraft songs like that anymore. Like, people still make Minecraft songs, but they're not, like... They don't have heart. Which is crazy to say, because it's like... It was just, like, pure passion. No skill, pure passion, you know? And that's what made them good. Sworn I saw diamonds like somewhere down here before. There's some lapis. I really do love that these two Endermen are just like pure chill maxing right here. Oh shit. What? Where did you come from? Big ass hole cave back here. It's like a square, like, chunk cut out. Gonna make some more torches. I used a ton clearing that space up. I have to get more coal. Is there any down here? Oh, a creeper. Aw, man. It's honestly probably like a soundbite I should put on the stream as creeper, aw, man. Here we go. There's some coal. And we'll have some more torches. There's a cave back here. Secret cave? Ooh. Some iron back there if I ever need it. Turn the rest of this coal into even more torches. Never enough torches. Was it down here that I saw diamonds before? Skeleton. So many skeletons in this cave. For real, for real. Another zombie. It wasn't an ore, actually. Oh, no. I saw the other zombie and thought it was a fucking baby zombie. Stop! Get off of me! I'm trying to switch my weapons. Rude. But that's, just a vine that grows on stuff. It emits light. But it's not an ore. Some iron. See, I could have sworn I remembered seeing diamonds from up top somewhere. I just can't recall, like, where? I could always go back up and look down again. Maybe it was on this side, but further. Tell that one spot's like just dark enough for zombies to spawn. Have to put another torch there. Ah! Speaking of delusional, I thought that guy was dead. I swear there was a diamond. You gotta believe me, officer. Ooh. 2 of them. Okay. Oh shit, hi. Oh, hi, zombie. When I go up, I'll have to make some more bread. Oh, shit. Hold up, guys. I'm trying to light this area up so more of you can't spawn. You guys are being very rude to your guest, me. He shot that bat! What the fuck? He shot the bat twice! Why did he shoot the bat twice? Dude, that bat took a hit for me twice. That's crazy. That's actually... the saddest thing of all time. Because that skeleton, neither time did it turn to, like, shoot at the bat just happened to flutter in its way twice. That bat fucking loved me. That bat gave up its life for me. Cool. The bat was a real fucking American hero. That's a lot of EXP. Okay, some more coal to turn in. 2 torches, because we love torches. We love lighting up our cave. Okay. Another corner lit up. Oh shit. Because I'm limiting where they can spawn so much. Anywhere that isn't getting lit up, the second it's out of my view, like 20 mobs are spawning. Which luckily does make it really easy to identify where is still too dark. He's my friend now. Good job, Jeremy. I don't mind too much of some mobs are spawning, at least. But it's materials. I killed Jeremy. I gave him a name and then gave him death. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. Are you overall feeling better than you were earlier, Demon? What the fuck? Was this hole here before? I don't think I went down in this, actually. Damn. Hopefully I'll feel better taking this again. I wonder if it's nighttime. It is. It is nighttime. I should cut this tree down. I swear I actually saw a diamond. So I'm gonna take a look at the ground from up here and see if I can't spot where I saw it. Because down there, it's like such a different vantage point, you know? So yeah, see, that's a diamond right there. It's just way, way further down than I actually went. Okay, so I'd have to go down from... Just go down further. Not all the way down there. That's a deep-ass diamond, yeah. But it is a diamond. It is real. The voices don't have a strong enough hold on me to make me hear shit yet. That just like grew to adulthood right in front of me. Okay. Here. More seeds. Be nice to get like some carrots. Maybe I'll find a mine and it'll have some carrot seeds in it. Oh, you know what, actually? That would be so nice if they dropped a potato. Three bread's pretty good, though. Alright, let's see if we can't... How's our sword doing? I should make another sword, just in case. Just in case, just in case. I don't really need that taking up space. This might as well just become another of those. This can become more of this. I would like another shield in my inventory, just in case, again. So it would suck if my shield broke and I lost it. So it was this side, I think I saw the diamond. It'd be funny if I fell to my death. So we have to go down and down. Ow. Rage baiting these guys. Yeah, look at that. We got a little gunpowder. I gotta be careful because I saw a skeleton down here, but I don't think he can get up actually. Even if he does get mad at me. Okay, torch there. This is nice and lit up. So if I kill like 120 zombies, we should be good. Ah! picked up some sweet berries up there while I was up there, you know? But I didn't. Whoops. I do need more coal. I'm constantly running out of torches. Lighting up this giant cave. Absolutely flabbergasting. It's almost like it's a big cave. I know, right? Oh, woe is me. How could I be running out of torches? And the Sisyphean task, bruh. Here, well, while I'm up here, I'll grab some berries. Fill in some holes. Eat some berries. Ooh, a dark and darker game mode? Wow, maybe a mode that doesn't suck? For multiplayer at least? I don't know. I feel like anyone who runs the dungeons in Skyblock just doesn't want other people to have fun. I always think of that one guy you had, Demon, that wanted to solo the dungeon and expected everyone to fucking behave and be held hostage. And not do anything themselves. It was a very, very bizarre story when you told it to me. Yeah, healers get a lot of beef in every game, man. Honestly, even in XIV, I haven't been playing healer a lot recently, even though that's kind of like always been my thing. I've just been mostly sticking to dancer. So I've been getting like such bad performance anxiety. Because like overall the XIV community is still really nice and really good, but they are like a little toxic if you aren't like one second, let me move my model. It's a little off. There we go. It's just a little... It's a little toxic. Everyone wants you to be doing your best even in like casual content, like 100% of the time. And you know, nobody wants to really have to give it all their all 100% of the time for like fucking Satasha, man. Sometimes people just want to fuck around in games. I feel like healers like that give other healers a really bad rap too. Because people think like every person who plays a healer is like that. Oh. Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you for visiting. starting to get sleepy finally, too. How long have I been streaming? 2 hours? That's pretty decent. Oh wait, someone made a clip? What the heck? Someone made a clip? Hold on. Oh, it was you? Did you clip the bat? Oh, you wish you did? I think you can go back and clip it, technically. Look at those bastards coming for me. Oh, you clip me saying a goofy thing? And there's VODs on for the stream, so we can always clip it later, too. Poor fucking bat. I can't believe that bat managed to get in the way of that. What? Oh. What? There's a grass block all the way down here, Demon. Ouch. Deep slate. Grassy. Yeah, it's all the way down at deep slate and it's grassy. Isn't that fucked? Where is this guy? Groaning in my ears. Must be on the other side of something and unable to get to me. Oh, there's some guys down here. I wonder if I can... Oh, the water does go down here. It's a lot of creepers. There's some lava down there. But I see it. Oh shit. If I'm lucky, I can find some diamonds somewhere else in here. I could also make like a little rail system going down here. Would be kind of cool. From like where my house is. I don't know. I just like the little minecart rail systems. Just something simple, you know? I don't have to have anything crazy like nether boat ice rink shit. Though I do like those. Alright. I think I'm gonna get myself tucked in at my house up here, and then I'm probably gonna head off to bed in real life because I'm sleepy finally. That was my condition for ending the stream. Until my health bar full. And then we We hit the wrong button. We hit the wrong button. Is it this button? Yeah. We do the thing where we talk to the camera like a real Minecraft YouTuber, like, wow. But yeah, then I want to go to bed. I'm sleepy. You need to go get your ibuprofen. You need to sleepy. We all need to sleepy. I don't work until 5 p.m. tomorrow though, so I might stream before work. Bye bye. Boy, 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 boy. Boy, boy.